U.S. churches were full-fledged stakeholders in slavery. Episcopal, Presbyterian, Baptist, Methodist, major denominations owned enslaved people, rented them out, and in some cases, they confined them in jail-like pens beneath or beside their sanctuaries, while white Christians prayed upstairs. Black men, women, and children were shackled below, treated as inventory instead of human beings. Now, it was common for enslavers to require their slaves to go to church so that they could learn about being a humble slave to their masters. But these people held in the pens below were livestock waiting to be sold, being punished. Who knows what? Georgetown University's Jesuit priests sold 272 enslaved people in 1838 to pay off school debts. In Charleston, St. Philip's, and St. Michael's, they forced black attendees into upper galleries while white parishioners sat in comfort below. Methodist ministers in the South regularly enslaved people as personal property. And of course, many ministers in the South enslaved people as personal property. Southern Baptists split from Northern Baptists in 1845 for one reason: to defend their right to keep enslaved people. Churches built slave galleries to force enslaved people to attend services, but not sit with white people. And the sermons told them to obey their masters. But the people locked in the church pens, they weren't taken upstairs to worship. They were confined like livestock. They were waiting to be sold, rented, or punished. The church baptized enslaved people. They preached a lot about obedience, and they promised them life after death in heaven, while profiting from their stolen lives on earth. This is white history, and white Christians especially need to own it. My username works as my address in case I disappear. Get curious.
In the 18th century, 1840 downwards, was the era whereby the church played a very vital role in ensuring that slavery was a big business for the church. And of course, you would see white churches upstairs and the people downstairs shackled and in chains. While someone is going on upstairs, those people, black people, bought, rented, were downstairs, shackles and chains, open for a day that they will be delivered, they will be set free, or rather, they will be sold. Such is the story I'm bringing you today because I believe that this past must be done to educate people. Because when you know where you're coming from, it will help you to prepare for where you're going. These are the history of blacks that was hidden, was not known by a lot of people. I know some will say it's not new. Yet to you it's new, but to a lot of people it's not known. This one I suppose the role the church, the early church, the white church play those times. Come along with me. Let's go watch a series of videos I've put together for you guys. Don't go nowhere. Credits are given to every creator in this video. If you love this content, do what to subscribe, like, and share. Make this video go viral so that people can know, be educated, and be informed so that they can project a good future for themselves from what had happened in the past. I'll be right back.
Someone on TikTok said you can look at the black church and tell we used to be slaves, and I cannot unsee it. Let's take a look at these lines by Frederick Douglass. Who gave you a master and a mistress? God gave them to me. Who says that you must obey them? God says that I must. What book tells you these things? The Bible. Now have a look at these. How do you know it's right to flog slaves? Because God sent Hagar back. How do you know it's impossible to make anyone slaves but Negroes? Because it's impossible to make anyone else slaves but Negroes. While the latter is satire, they're what typical Christian catechisms or call and response frameworks would have looked like in the antebellum South. One set was given to white church members, while another was given to African American members. The catechisms were used to indoctrinate enslaved people and teach them to see obedience, subordination, and suffering as commands from God. In Go Tell It on the Mountain, James Baldwin confronts the violent legacy of Christianity and how it was used to subjugate Black Americans. The story is set in Harlem in the 1930s, and 14-year-old John Grimes is caught between the oppressive demands of his Black Pentecostal church and his desire for personal freedom. His tyrannical stepfather, Gabriel Grimes, is so consumed by guilt, rage, and fear that he demands the same misery from his children. Thus, his faith is a system of punishment forged from the same religious logic that once justified the whip. But to understand all of this, we have to understand the historical context. During slavery, religious instruction was used to systemically dehumanize Black people. Today, we can see that catechisms are distortions and just outright lies of Christian theology. But this is how Christianity was perverted to enshrine Black suffering as divine and permanent. In Baldwin's Harlem, the Black people are not slaves in the legal sense, but they are shackled by a religious ideology that equates pain with virtue and freedom with sin. That being said, Baldwin still respects the deep and complicated reality of the Black faith. The book is simply an honest depiction of how Christianity has been distorted into a tool of control over the bodies and minds of Black folk.
I want you to really hear me when I say this. The Catholic Church wasn't just sitting on the sidelines during the transatlantic slave trade. It was writing the permission slip. When I first started reading these papal bulls, I had to stop. Because they're not vague, they're not coded. They literally told Portugal, go, enslave, conquer. Non-Christians were fair game. That's the church in the 1400s, greenlighting slavery on an industrial scale. And people want to act like it was just the kings and the merchants who did this. Like the church was reluctantly dragged along. No, the church gave it moral cover. It said God is on your side while you shackle people in your holes and steal them from their homelands. And it wasn't just Europe. I'm talking about Catholic priests writing with conquistadors, crossing oceans to save souls with one hand, while overseeing forced labor with the other. Baptisms at sword point. Encomienda systems that worked people to death, but called it civilizing them. Thing is, it was profitable. That's what people forgot. Those massive cathedrals in Latin America, the seminaries and monasteries in Brazil, built on enslaved labor. The church collected tithes from the plantation, blessed the trade routes, and baptized the slave ships. So when I see photos of those grand altars all gold and marble, I think, who paid for this? Like, not with money, with their lives, with their stolen children. Sure, there were priests who spoke out. There were always people in the church who knew that it was evil. But the institution, the Vatican, it didn't abolish anything. It hedged. It compromised. It stayed quiet while millions were taken. Even when abolition movements exploded in the 1800s, the church would issue these careful, qualified condemnations of unjust slavery. Like, what does that even mean? Which part was just? The chains? The auction blocks? The branding iron? Please. And let's talk about reparations. The church still holds lands, art, gold, wealth that was built on bodies. They'll apologize in statements. They'll talk about healing, but have they given any of it back? Opened all the archives? Funded reparations meaningfully? It's not enough to say sorry. It's enough to hold a mass atonement while you sit on stolen riches. Because here's the truth that no one wants to say out loud. The Catholic Church helped build the slave trade, blessed it, justified it, profited from it. You can't talk about faith, morality, salvation without talking about the chains that they helped forge. If you're going to talk about the church's history, you better talk about all of it. The prayers, the whips, the conversions at gunpoint, the gold. That's the real story, and it deserves to be told.
White churches have not just been supported by white supremacy, they have served as its headquarters. I know you don't want to hear that. They have taught white people that oppression is godly and that power belongs to us by divine right. After the civil rights movement, powerful white people, men, saw that their grip was slipping. Black people were winning court cases. Poor people were organizing. Women were demanding rights. How dare we? LGBTQ people were coming out of their closets, and the foundations of white male dominance were cracking. So they thought, what can we use that no one will question? In 1979, Jerry Falwell founded the Moral Majority. He said it was about championing family values. That was a lie. The real trigger was that the IRS had begun revoking tax exemptions for whites-only Christian schools. Those whites-only schools were created specifically to avoid integration. Falwell's own school, Liberty Christian Academy, was one of them. The platform of the Moral Majority ended up getting built around the issue of abortion. Although that wasn't the original plan, they basically test drove different topics to see which ones would resonate the most with the audience they needed to capture, which was white Americans, white Christian Americans. It had everything to do with maintaining the right to discriminate, yet still enjoy government benefits. This guy named Paul Weyrich, who was a conservative political strategist, he teamed up with Falwell to build a political base. He admitted that abortion had not really motivated white evangelicals until it became politically useful. Their real grievance was losing control over who could sit in their classrooms, walk into their churches, and live in their neighborhoods. Once they realized that abortion could mask their racial panic, they made that their headline issue. They built a movement that turned pulpits into propaganda platforms. Sunday services became political strategy sessions. That's illegal. You're not supposed to be able to do that at a church if you're getting tax exemption. Ministers told white families that their enemies were not the wealthy elites exploiting their labor. They were not the politicians cutting their wages and stealing their pensions. The churches pointed to the poor, the black, the brown, the queer, the immigrant. Those people are the ones that are taking food out of your children's plate. They told white people they were being persecuted every time they were asked to share. And yes, I understand what it means for me to say this out loud. I know what it means to say that the church, something which is so sacred to so many, has been a central engine of the immoral institution of white supremacy. I know this will upset people. The white church has stood on the wrong side of every fight for justice in this country. Every one. During slavery, it defended human ownership. During Jim Crow, it defended lynching and segregation. Christian church members attended lynchings and brought their children to steep them in that evil. During the civil rights movement, it defended denying benefits to black people. During the rise of Trump, it defended cruelty in the name of religious liberty, as if Trump has a clue. Some churches resisted, yes. There are liberal churches who have a strong history of being on the right side of these issues, but most didn't. Most chose comfort. Even now, white churches help elect leaders who lie, steal, incite violence. They wage war on education. They call justice wokeness as an insult. They are consuming a message that keeps them at the center with the elite in their minds. They choose white power over compassion, over empathy. One share shows you care about setting the record straight. Please share. Next time, I am going to talk about how Donald Trump did not hijack this system. He was groomed into it.
The role of the church can't be overemphasized. You can't overemphasize because the church play a very vital role in making sure that the people that were caught, rent, or bought were dutifully, when I say dutifully, I mean that they were brainwashed, they were prepared, and they are always telling them, you must be humble, you must serve your master well, you must be obedient. Guys, tell me, what is obedience? When someone that is human, that has flesh and blood flowing through his vein, is being told that he is to be serving, to be washing the master's feet, to be cleaning, to be working in the plantation without hope, without future, without any aspiration for a better life. And such is what the church did. They will say, and they will use the scripture, the Bible, to say, as a servant, you must be subject to your master. Yes, I've come across that. And these are the rhetorics that were inculcated into the Bible to make people feel that if you are a servant, you must be subject to your master. But not in this context, because you bought someone, you make him or her feel less as a human being, yet you're telling him or her to be submissive, to be humble, to be. Do you get what I'm saying, guys? And this is what happened in the 80s, where the white church began this rhetoric, this agenda, this plan. Truth be told, if you know the history of how the blacks were taken from Africa, it is still through this white church. They brought religion to Africa. And when they brought them, they deceived them. Oh, we're going to give you school. We're going to build schools for you. We're going to give infrastructure. And you have to know about it. And that is how religion was introduced to Africa. The truth be told, there's not like church. It was white. They call it white man's religion. That is how they brought it to Africa. And the agenda beneath is to catch people and render them as inferior persons or individuals so that they can commercialize them, they can monetize them. That was how they were able to penetrate a lot of African countries. And in the 18th century in America, they continued with the enterprise and they're making merchandise, they're making a lot of money from people being rented, being sold. A lot of things happen that I am here to let you guys know. Well, it is not my word. I'm very sure you guys have watched a couple of videos I've put together of this white woman saying the truth, speaking the truth, the way it is, how it was done, that the church played a very important role to making sure that people never understood who they are, how dehumanized they are, turning human to merchandise, turning human to profit making, and of course, caging and limiting black folks from understanding the reality and the purpose for which they have been created. They brainwash them, they make them feel less of a human, and of course, they are sold, they are merchandised, they are profit with. That is what happened, guys. Let me know your take. Let me know your perception about this. I'm doing this video to educate people so that we can know where we're coming from and project where we are going. That is the intent of every video I'm doing on this platform. So guys, let the conversation begin. I'll wait you at the comment section. Comments are welcome politely and no insult. Respect YouTube guidelines when you're commenting. But this is what I'm saying. We can't say we want to forget the past, that we want to chart a new future. No, you must know your past so that you can chart a new future. Thank you guys for watching. Until I come your way again. Bye-bye.